When it was announced by producers of Night Gallery that the works of H.P. Lovecraft would be featured in at least 2 episodes in the season 2, everybody was very happy to give it a chance to bring such a wide range of horror and chills to the small screen. Now, this episode ranks to me as a top 5 Night Gallery episode. It makes me sad every time I see it, because with lost opportunity, where a person has outlived his life, and the person who wants to share his life, her life with him, is not capable, because there's too much of a divide, both emotionally and age-wise. So what we're talking about today again is the classic Cool Air. Now in this Rod Serling adaptation, a scientist who can't take temperatures over 55 for the most unusual reason is the subject of this story. Now, directed by Geno Schwartz, with the beautiful Barbara Rush as Agatha Howard, Henry Darrow as Dr. Juan Munoz, Beatrice Kay as Mrs. Gibbons, Larry J. Blake as Charlie Crowley, and Carl Lucas as the Iceman. Now, according to David Jewell's blog spot on the series, this is a very strong and surprisingly touching romantic Night Gallery story, and the story begins with an old woman, Agatha Howard, Barbara Rush, very good, in voiceover narration as a handheld camera walks through a cemetery on a blustery fall day. Over a mournful Spanish guitar, Agatha begins to tell about a relationship some 50 years ago with a Dr. Juan Munoz, whose leaf-covered tombstone the camera ends up on. Now, we flash back to the early 1920s New York, very well put together in costume design, on a hot summer afternoon. Agatha comes unannounced to visit the doctor, who was a professional colleague of her scientist father, who has recently died. While going through her father's papers, she found correspondence between them regarding their views on accepting, or more accurately not accepting, the finality of death. She's eventually greeted at the front door by the building's landlady, Mrs. Gibbons, who expresses surprise at anyone who come to visit the doctor. The reason? The man has some strange habits, such as the fact that he never leaves his apartment, and he keeps it at an incredibly chilly temperature. Now, the doctor is quite pleased to meet his former colleague's daughter, and she finds his views on the subject of postponing physical death via force of will extremely interesting. So interesting that she asks him to dinner, but not before inquiring as to his marital status. He is a widower, his wife having committed suicide in her native Spain 10 years before, shortly after an undisclosed illness. Since he never leaves his apartment due to his unexplained condition, which requires him to remain in a temperature-controlled environment, she invites himself to dinner at his apartment, and he gladly accepts. Now, when she's about to take her leave of him, he graciously takes her hand into his chilly one and kisses it. And Rush does a fine job of communicating both her pleasure at the gesture and the shock of the frigid touch of the hand and lips. Now she returns for dinner and several more, and we are treated to some lovely direction from Schwartz in his scenes as his camera revolves around the two of them seated at the dinner table, moving over photographs on the walls of his apartment and giving us the visual sense of their strong attraction and attachment to each other growing throughout these visits. We also get some wonderful Serling dialogue delivered by Darrow on Dr. Munoz's views on life and death. This is the life that counts. It's the only one that has substance. It's the only one we can be sure of. As that is why we clutch to it so jealously and selfishly, because we know it to be brief and very precarious. However, one early morning before dawn, as the heat wave continues, Agatha is awakened at her hotel by a phone call from Munoz requesting her immediate presence and assistance. When she arrives, Dr. Munoz is wrapped in a blanket with only one eye visible, and he implores her to find someone to repair his apartment's refrigeration machine that has broken down. Mrs. Gibbons says that the man living directly below him is a mechanic, and Agatha rushes downstairs to wake him. He's none too happy for the 3 a.m. wake-up call, but grudgingly agrees to come upstairs and take a look. Now, the machine needs a part which can't be obtained till later that morning. Desperate, Munoz asks Agatha to get him ice, a lot of it. She complies, and shortly after, a worker brings up the last of 300 pounds of ice blocks and leaves it outside Munoz's bathroom, where he's ensconced unseen to the delivery man or to Agatha. Now, later that morning, Munoz's condition has worsened. Still locked inside the bathroom with the blocks of ice, he refuses to let Agatha see him and instead speaks to her in a raspy, weak, near whisper through the door. Admitting that the theories on cheating death after organ failure were just that, theories, he further amplifies the reason for his wife's suicide 10 years ago. He spells it out for her. She couldn't stand living with a corpse, you see, my darling. I died that time, 10 years ago. As we take in these words and our dread grows, we hear Munoz collapse from inside the bathroom. With a rising panic, Agatha summons all her strength and breaks open the door to find a most shocking, disturbing sight, that of the gruesome, desiccated corpse of the doctor. Now, this is not a very good special effect. It can be done better, but for what it is, it's quite a shock. Now, Agatha lets out a scream of horrified fear as we take it all in. Now, when the story returns to the bookend of the much older Agatha narrating a trip to the cemetery where Munoz is buried to place flowers on his grave, she says, I wonder if I'm mourning something that was or something that might have been. She reflects. Then adds this disturbing thought. What might have been embraces elements of horror that could drive me insane, which could certainly take as her imagining that Munoz had not died then. The relationship may have gotten sexual to a point she may have unknowingly engaged in necrophilia. The final image is that of Munoz's headstone, covered in leaves as there were in the opening scene, which were swept away by the wind, revealing this. Born 1887, died 1913 and 1923. Now, the only problem I have with that, Munoz looks older than 35, but that's just a quibble. Now, according to Jewel and according to many Night Gallery historians, including me, this is an extremely strong entry in the Night Gallery canon, an excellent mixture of drama, humanity, and a bit of horror. It would, for me, get 4 stars out of 4, but what's lacking is some of the, there's some structural elements and some unintended humor. H.P. Lovecraft is always known for developing all the characters, and this could easily be a play. It's that efficient. But like the denouement, seeing the corpse body or the dead body finally being dead, it's a little bit over the top. But Barbara Rush, very underrated actress, same as Henry Darrow. But for me, this is a Night Gallery at its best. Other than the caterpillar and a few camera obscura, which is the second part of this this episode, one of the strongest segments of Night Gallery had a basis in horror, in reality, and in resolution. We don't talk about that much. The best Night Gallery stories, there's a strong resolution. Like Sins of the Fathers, you know something bad was going to happen at the end. So this, Sins of the Fathers, the caterpillar, they're tearing down Tom Riley's bar. When Night Gallery was at its best, it's like this. Efficient cinematography, great costume design, great presence, great acting. Again, well, let's give it 4 stars out of 4, just to give. But like I said, from a technical aspect, 3.5, but from a script and presentation aspect, 4 over 4. So let us know how we're doing our Night Gallery podcast with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. And don't forget, Christmas is coming in a month's time. Treat your friends, treat your family, and treat yourself by getting Night Gallery Season 1, Season 2, and Season 3, either regular DVD or Blu-ray. There's a lot of extras. You're really going to like it. Thanks for listening. Bye.